Go.
Welcome to 4th and 30, where four longtime friends bob and weave their way through the hot topics in the sports world. This is our very first podcast, something that's probably a little overdue. For years now, we've all been part of a group chat debating and discussing every big piece of news as it happens. Now, you all get to be a part of the discussion. Come along with us as we dive into this thing. Feel free to drop us a comment or topic on any of our social accounts. Be sure to give us a like or follow while you're there. Sit back and hang on because this could get wild. My name is Evan McWilliams, but that may be the last time you hear that on this podcast. Most folks call me Carl. As it was said to me years ago, I'm a coordinated person trapped in a non-athletic body. As I'm sure some of you guys can relate. I've been a fan of sports my whole life, though, and you'll hear me soapbox from time to time, but I'll try to keep them short. That's about enough out of me. I'm going to pass it off to our resident senior, Cody.
Resident senior. My name's Cody Stoneburner. For those who don't know, a former college basketball player turned high school basketball coach. Lifelong Chiefs and Cubs fan. As an NBA super fan, I follow players, not necessarily teams, but never miss a thing when it comes to the NBA. On next to our third co-host, Kyler Moore.
I'm Kyler Moore. As you can see, diehard Steelers fan here. And also, I take after Cody, super fan in the NBA, LeBron James. But just enjoy watching it as a whole. And a Braves fan. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity and discussing sports with my friends. On to you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Kyler. I'm Kelsey Moore, Kyler's brother. I've grown up an avid sports fan, and I like to debate. For any of you who follow me on social media, you probably already know that. If you follow me on social media, you probably know I'm always right as well. So if you don't follow me on social media, you'll figure that out on this podcast.
All right, so that's the four of us. Like I said, we've all been friends a very long time, so we're just excited to take you guys along on this with us, and we'll just see where it goes. So first thing we got for you guys today, we're going to talk a little about the NFC and AFC Championship games. So, guys, the floor is ours. What do we got?
So what was your takeaway? What was your all's takeaway with the AFC Championship? We'll start with the AFC Championship game. Kelsey, you can start.
I mean, honestly, Josh Allen, amazing quarterback, top 3 talent in the league as far as youth going forward the next 10 years. But you could see in that game the youth getting to him. Chiefs defense, good defense, underrated defense, not a great defense, but it seemed like they made every single play, and it's because Josh Allen missed opportunities. There were a couple of times he took 20-yard sacks. You just can't do that. Set yourself up for 3rd and 30. But Chiefs looked great on both sides of the ball, moved the ball at will. The first drive, Tyreek Hill had the big drop pass. Otherwise, that drive could have been completely different had he held onto that pass. It was a 40-yard pass downfield, and it was right through his hands. I mean, it started out 9-0, and it could have actually started out 7-3 Chiefs, which probably would have made it even worse than it was. Chiefs pretty much had their way with the Bills the entire game. I
think that's something that Chiefs fans take for granted, though, is that we had Mahomes step up his first year starting like he had been doing it his whole life. And there's so much room for growth in the NFL. That's why you see a lot of, like Tom Brady, still at 42, or 43, whatever he is, still he's in the Super Bowl. And so Josh Allen, you're not wrong, has top 3 talent by all means, but he needs time to grow too. We saw, who was it? Jackson get over the hump this year, finally get a win. I think he's only going to get better with that win in the playoffs. Same for Josh Allen. The experience is going to do wonder for him, which is sad to say as a Chiefs fan, but I just feel like they're going to be even better in the years coming because it's all experience to him.
I think go ahead, Carl.
Go ahead. I do feel like if Allen loses Diggs, that his safety net is gone. So we've seen that, some of us being Chiefs fans here, with Gonzalez, we've always had crappy quarterbacks. And then Gonzalez was always that safety net that made it look okay. But, you lose that safety net and it kind of goes downhill. And, he's got a Cole Beasley, that Amendola-type player, but, Wes Welker-ish. But, if he loses Diggs, I can see it being hard for him to kind of
Well, you saw the jump their offense made this year from pre-Diggs to post-Diggs. They were more dynamic anyway.
I think that would have been a combination of Diggs and Allen just becoming more accurate.
Yeah.
He improved his completion percentage in all 3 years, and this year he improved by like 8%. But my main takeaway from this game was, I mean, all year you look at the Chiefs defense and you think this might be a defense that can hold them back. When really that defense might have been more impressive than their offense in that game. They shell-shocked the Bills' offense. The Bills were averaging 32 points a game over the last 11 games, most in the NFL, making it look easy. And then the Chiefs' DBs just come up, they man up, they shut down the receivers. Where was Diggs? I didn't even see Diggs in that game. And
I think he had like 7 yards.
That was the most impressive thing for me. The way they manned up on those receivers, tight coverage. I mean, Allen didn't have anywhere to throw the ball, if you ask me. And the offensive line didn't play as good as it had. The Chiefs were getting in the backfield, getting pressure. And to me, that was the story of the game. And if that Chiefs defense plays like that, nobody can beat them. Period.
Chiefs also had 2 pretty blatant dropped interceptions there in the first half that were in the hands, should have been caught, and that could have got ugly really fast.
One thing you have to say about the Chiefs defense too is Spagnuolo. I mean, that man, Sneed's had 3 sacks or something like that.
Yeah,
that's insane. I mean, you never know what's coming at you with Spags.
I was getting ready to bring that up. Is the Browns made me nervous because the Browns have such a good offensive line, and with Spags, you're going to just throw 8 at them almost every play and just try to play man. And so I didn't know how that game would go. But if we get a good matchup where you can get good pressure on the quarterback, that plays in the Chiefs' hands. And they proved it can work with the Browns, even when against a team that's known for pretty good protection of their quarterback. But, yeah, I think the Chiefs' defense just gets a little bit better every week, which is good for us and bad for the other teams. But
they stepped up to the challenge in the playoffs. And, you can say what you want about the regular season, but when you step up and do it in the conference champion, the teams that rise to the occasion in those games are better than the teams that might do it longer in the regular season, because they're doing it when it matters.
Yeah, as a fan, I was sitting on my couch when we got down 9-0, and like last year, sure, I was pretty, pissed and worried when that happened, but this time I wasn't worried. I was just pissed. It's like, man, how is this happening again? But you knew that the Chiefs were going to get back into it was never a question, and it's not something we've been accustomed to. It's weird how in 1 year,
at least it wasn't 28-0, Carl.
I've had that same conversation though, and at some time they're not going to come back though.
Exactly, and you'd be like, what happened?
They're not going to come back. Hopefully it'll be in the regular season in a game that doesn't matter, but chances are it's going to be in the playoffs at some point in time where 28-0 is too much to come back from.
And it'll probably be to the Bills. Yeah.
So let's transfer into the NFC Championship game. Packers, Buccaneers. Buccaneers win 31-26. What's your takeaway from that game, Kelsey?
I would say my first and biggest takeaway from that game is why in the world, with 8 seconds left in the first half, from the 40-yard line, are you playing man coverage underneath and nobody over the top? Credit to the Buccaneers for how they played. Credit to Tom Brady, how he played. 43 years old, leading a team that pretty much a junk franchise for the last decade, to actually 20 years, hasn't done anything. Leading the team to the Super Bowl, good for them. But that game was over right then. You play man coverage underneath with 8 seconds left in the first half. Why? Nobody over the top. Doesn't make any sense. That's my takeaway from the entire game.
Yeah, my big thing was, how in the world do you allow Tom Brady to get away with 3 interceptions? Mm-hmm. It's just mind-boggling how, Brady's the GOAT. We all understand that. It might change here in 10 years when some things work out. But, right now, Brady's the greatest to ever done it. How does he get away with 3 interceptions in a championship game? It's just mind-boggling to me. And then another thing that came up was, in the playoffs this year, the Buccaneers have scored 46 or 7 points off of turnovers, which, you know, that is an just incredible rate in 3 games to have 40 plus points off of turnovers. And so, like, how as a unit did Green Bay that happen? Like, how is your defense and special teams not in the mindset of, like, go get that ball, now we got to score with it? Like, they lost it themselves. Green Bay lost that game.
After you said that, at what point are we going to hold Aaron Rodgers accountable?
That's what I was getting ready to say.
He's 1-4 in NFC Championship games. Amazing talent, but he seems to shrink when it's the biggest game. Tyler just said best teams come up big in big games, and Aaron Rodgers time and time again shrinks in the biggest games. He had a chance to tie the game up at the end of the game. Everyone complains about him kicking the field goal. The play before should have been a touchdown. He should have ran it in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at some point, Aaron Rodgers has to be held accountable. And then after the game, his post-game conference, he's talking about how he doesn't know if he's going to be there anymore.
Yeah.
He's just sitting there saying that to get the attention off of him. Like, that's all he's doing. Everyone's falling for it, too. Everyone's just falling right into what he's doing. He always thinks he's the smartest man in the room. And
he didn't specifically blame anyone, but that's what that comment was all about. Was hey, look at I'm uncertain whether I'm going to be here, so kind of like look at it from the coach perspective or something like that. Oh, we shouldn't have kicked that field goal. We should have went for it. Like Kelsey said, take the blame off of me. Look at if I'm unhappy, if I'm the superstar and I'm unhappy, something must be going on here. Which I was going to bring up a little bit ago. Backtrack a little bit. How long has there been some sort of squabble in their locker room? Did it start after that game, or has it been a couple weeks bubbling now?
Oh, it's been 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and
you've heard whispers of definitely not 100% perfect relationships in that locker room for years.
Yeah,
but you've heard a lot of ex Rodgers teammates. Honestly, I can't remember the receiver that they traded the Vikings. I can't remember his name. It was like 8 years ago. Great receiver in Green Bay.
Greg Jennings.
Jennings. Yeah. Jennings threw Rodgers under the bus. I mean, he just talked because I guess he overheard Rodgers during the NFC Championship game or in the playoffs, one or the other, talking to the Niners about how they should sign him next year, how they should sign Greg Jennings next year. And Jennings is like, wait, you don't want me back on your team next year?
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, we all agree he's really good, but I think we also all agree that he has a little cockiness about him that's kind of held him back in his career a little bit.
And I was going to speak to them drafting, what's his name? Jordan Love. Jordan Love. If you were to draft somebody, which the Chiefs I don't think would ever waste a first-round pick on a quarterback in their current situation, but say that they go out and they get a quarterback in the late first round as a backup for Mahomes for however long it takes, that's not going to worry somebody like Mahomes. He's not going to worry about it. He knows that's his job. And Aaron Rodgers should have the same mindset as he's the man in Green Bay, but yet I think something about that situation has irked him a little bit, or he wouldn't be making those comments that he's made. Because, I mean, to be frank, they did the same thing to Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers, but Brett Favre was maybe a little bit closer to the end of his career, maybe not, but same thing. I think he's thinking, oh, these guys are trying to start the process of moving on from me, so throw the team under the bus,
When you have the same championship record as Donovan McNabb, who is not a Hall of Famer and who had a lot of those same ego issues, you can start to draw similarities between the two.
Yeah.
And I think Donovan McNabb can thank Andy Reid a lot for a lot of the reason why he was even in the championship, let alone the championship record.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, I don't see them moving on from him, so they're going to have to, fix that relationship a little bit. But
Aaron Rodgers, go ahead. Sorry, Kai.
But back to Tom Brady in the game, I think that, it seems kind of weird that Tom Brady made the Super Bowl this year. I can't explain it much, but it does seem kind of weird, like kind of the dominoes fell in place for him a little bit. No disrespect to him. He's the GOAT, and he's the greatest to ever do it at this time. But doesn't it just seem a little weird to y'all? The way they made the Super Bowl.
What's the
they
phrase?
got hot at the end of the year.
Well, what's the phrase too? It's sometimes better to be lucky than good. And
he got hot, but he threw 3 interceptions, like you said.
The team got hot.
Hey, I have a question for you. So he did throw 3 interceptions, but they were all late in the game. They already had. I mean, the reason why he threw 3 interceptions was he was still being aggressive when they were winning.
There was one in the first half.
And then the last 2 were in the fourth quarter. But I have an honest question for you. Everyone talks about how Belichick brings this winning attitude, this winning mentality, straightforward, work, mind on the prize. But has anyone actually looked at what Tom Brady does? Like people talk about Kobe Bryant all the time. And Tom Brady is the closest thing in the NFL to Kobe Bryant with his mentality. He is strategic about everything he does, everything he puts in his body, everything he does in life. And he brought a winning mentality to a losing franchise. That was the difference in it. Honestly, that was the difference. A franchise that hasn't had a good leader in 20 years, and he brought a winning mentality to that franchise.
No disrespect to Tom Brady. I think we've stated enough he's the GOAT, but where did he get that winning mentality from? And I'm on the Brady side of the Brady-Belichick argument, but where did Brady get that mentality?
If Brady doesn't win 2 in his first 3 years, he doesn't have that mentality.
Well, he was a bench player at Michigan and then won the starting job. And then as soon as he was picked as a starter in New England when Bledsoe went down, his first game was awful. I think he threw like 3 interceptions, gets on the plane after the game and says, I'm going to be one of the great ones to his workout coach. So I don't think Belichick's the reason why Brady had.
But he was also working up his resume and with his business degree because he didn't even think he was going to get drafted. A winner doesn't go into the draft and say, I don't think I'm even going to get drafted. You're going to work your ass off and go to the combine and like do what you got to do to get into the NFL.
Or maybe a prepared person's just prepared, Carl.
Okay.
Brady is the GOAT. You are right, Kelsey, about the winning attitude, but he was mentored by Bill Belichick as well, and Belichick has a little bit to do with that, whether anybody wants to admit it. But Brady's the GOAT, and I just think that defense, Carl said it, that defense came alive. And maybe Brady does have a little bit to do with making that team play better just by being there and his attitude and how he shows up for work every day. But
and that
alone doesn't do it.
That's where they got some of the success from, though, is you get Gronk to come out of retirement to play with Tom Brady. He didn't want to play football again just to play football. He wanted to play football with Tom Brady, which is a point for Tom Brady to show that Gronk is comfortable and wants to play with him. So you get one of the best tight ends of all time to come out of retirement to play with you. You get Tom Brady who can manage Antonio Brown, I guess would be the best way to do it. Keep him in check maybe, and keep him happy while he's there. So a former number 1 wide receiver, top 3 in the time at the league, probably, to come play for you. Now, he's not the same that he was, but he's still a great talent. So you go from, like we said, a team that's a losing franchise that didn't have the player base to win a Super Bowl, and you bring in a tight end and a number 1 wide receiver that's, like I said, I guess it's not luck that he got those guys to play with him. But they're not winning
weapons already.
They're not winning without those 2, I don't think.
I completely agree. And why did they come to Tampa Bay?
To play with Tom Brady. You're 100%
exactly.
right.
When Gronk runs, he looks like the guy running after Shooter McGavin and Happy Gilmore. That dude is like, he's not the Gronk that we came to expect in the mid 2010. Like, he's nowhere near that.
Let's ask this question. Why did Tom Brady go to Tampa Bay? Because they had the players to win. They had the players to win.
Well, because he didn't want to play with Belichick anymore because Belichick wouldn't get anything around him. Belichick's a great coach. I completely agree.
There's 30 other NFL teams he could have went to. He went to Tampa Bay because they had the players to win.
Because in that system, Jameis Winston threw 5,000 yards the year before. He knew that they had the receivers to do it. Like Takai's point.
Tom Brady, to be fair, Tom Brady wasn't taking his pick in teams this offseason. There was plenty of teams that wanted him, probably half the league. But you got to think the Chiefs, the Texans, all those teams with elite quarterbacks, they weren't looking for Tom Brady. He wasn't going to go to an already top 8 team. Now, granted he helped propel a fringe top 8 team up into that echelon, but he wasn't just taking his pick on where he was going. He's a 42-year-old quarterback.
Tampa Bay was the best of the middle of the road teams out there because Jameis Winston, who threw 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 30 interceptions, like that doesn't just happen.
What do you mean he wasn't taking his pick?
Because
Winston,
teams like that have the elite quarterbacks already aren't going to pick up Tom Brady. Green Bay wasn't going to pick up Tom Brady. Kansas City's not going to pick up Tom Brady. The Texans weren't going to pick up Tom Brady.
I think he's saying the best teams weren't picking up Tom Brady because they already had good.
They already have elite quarterbacks, so he wasn't
Bill
just
O'Brien
taking
would have
his
taken
pick.
Brady.
What I'll say is, and you can say whatever you want after this. Patriots, powerhouse in the AFC for how many years? Brady's not in New England anymore. They don't even sniff the playoffs. Tampa Bay hasn't seen the playoffs in 20 years.
You can't just ignore the fact that 5 of the Patriots players defensively opted out of the season and they lost the quarterback. You can't ignore that.
But how many years has New England had no weapons and Tom Brady's completely disguised that? Tom Brady has disguised Bill Belichick's inability to get weapons into New England.
But they've always had a great defense.
They've had a good defense. Played a certain style that they didn't. There was just a certain style of football. Tom Brady made it work when no other quarterback would have, yes. But again, we're not discounting what Belichick has done. And I feel like that's where this is going.
I'm not I think Belichick, if anything, is his inability becomes as a GM, not as a coach. I think he's a great defensive mind. It's just his inability to get some weapons at all in New England for the last 20 years. He's had Randy Moss.
Spent their money on defensive backs. And look at the defensive backs they've had in the last 5 years. The McCourty twins, Stephon Gilmore, they signed him from Buffalo. He put that defense together. He had Tom Brady on offense. He didn't need anything else. Exactly. So he put the defense together.
I think
that's how they won their Super Bowl. Right now.
So we got Tampa Bay and Kansas City in the Super Bowl. First time any home team has ever hosted a Super Bowl in their home stadium. So what are you guys' thoughts? Kyler, you got anything on this Super Bowl?
Well, you got Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes again. Pretty good showdown of quarterbacks here. Like I was saying earlier with how it feels weird that the Buccaneers have actually made the Super Bowl. That tends to make me think, maybe there is some magic for Tom Brady left and maybe they can pull this off. But with the way the Chiefs defense played last week, the Chiefs play a style of defense that is the only style of defense that has given Brady fits over his career. You man up, you press coverage, you disrupt the wide receivers and throw off his timing. They play that kind of defense. And if they're able to get pressure with 4, I think Brady's going to have a tough day. And so I'm going with the Chiefs in this one. Their defense is just the way they played last week. It's too good. And like I said, they play a good style against Tom Brady. And I don't think if you look, this is no disrespect to Tom Brady, but if you look at some of their recent Super Bowls they've won, their defense has held the opposing team to a low amount of points.
Less than 20.
And go ahead, guy.
A couple of those Super Bowls they lost to the Giants, they didn't give up a lot of points either. But I just don't see Mahomes and the Chiefs scoring less than 28, 30 points. So I feel like this is the Chiefs to win. Obviously, it can go either way, but it's definitely the Chiefs to win.
The Bucs defense makes me a little bit nervous. It's no team has managed to just shut down the Chiefs yet. Nobody's found that magical solution to it. But the Bucs can put pretty good pressure on the quarterback, and so that it worries me because it's Tom Brady. It's a good defense. I don't think it's in the bag by any means. Kai said it best. It's the Chiefs to lose for sure. But you're going against Tom Brady. You're going against a defense that's going to put some pressure on you. I don't think it's going to be a 38-3 game or anything like that by any means.
I actually went and watched some clips from the Chiefs-Bucks game earlier this year, and then I watched it made me watch some other Bucks clips because I was curious. It looks like if you watch the Bucks are manning up with the Chiefs receivers all the time. That's not the case. It's just they like to press on the outside because their linebackers are so fast they can make plays. They have the fastest linebacking crew in the NFL without a doubt. So they try and push them to the inside, and then the corners play the outside. But Tyreek Hill, every time they'd play press coverage, Tyreek Hill would blow right by him, and they wouldn't even touch him. And it was the Bucs secondary is terrible, but their D line is good, and their linebackers are great, and it's covered it up. If you watch clips from that game, it's awful to watch. Tyreek Hill press coverage, they can't even touch him in line of scrimmage. He goes by him so fast, and he's by him for a touchdown. And then they played 10 yards off of him, trying to play softer. And there's a corner, I kid you not, lined up 10 yards off of him. There's a clip. I'm sure you guys have seen it. If you haven't, you need to go look it up. He's 10 yards off him on the snap, and Tyreek is at him before he even turns around and starts to run. So he blows right by him. Playing 10 yards off of him and blows right by him for a touchdown. It's like the worst coverage by a corner on Tyreek I've ever seen. And the Bucs did play softer in the second half, which is, I think, the only way they can possibly play this game, because otherwise their inefficiency at corner is going to be shown. But they played soft in the second half and were able to keep the Chiefs in front of them. But the Chiefs actually had a couple mistakes. Mahomes fumbled in the red zone. Had he not fumbled there, the Buccaneers didn't even have the ball with a chance to tie or take the lead after the first quarter in that game. The score ended up closer than what it was, but the Chiefs dominated them that game. And it was mainly because the question is going to be, can the Bucs secondary defend the Chiefs' speed long enough for their D-line to get to Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
Because judging by that game, I don't think they can. But we'll have to see. I mean, maybe something different will come out in this game.
You're dealing with a banged-up Chiefs offensive line, though. I mean,
You're right.
no Fisher, which I don't think Fisher's looked very good this year. He hasn't looked as good as he's been in the past. But
Pro Bowl.
You're crazy, bro.
Yeah, but
He's a
the
Pro Bowler
last
this year,
few weeks that he was playing, man, it was, I don't know, unprofessional opinion.
Sign off. Sign off. That's baloney. Get out of here with that. Eric Fisher
and Shorts
has been one of the better left tackles this year.
Fisher and Shorts have been a great anchor for the Chiefs offense this year when they've been healthy. They haven't been healthy together in a long time. But.
The Chiefs offensive line has been playing with 3 backups for like 12 weeks.
That's what makes me worried is
12 weeks.
They've been good for those 12 weeks. That's what we're saying. Like, they've managed with those backups for that long.
So yeah, JPP is probably going to get, a sack and a half. Like, it's just going to happen. But like, for Tampa Bay to win this game, that has to happen. So Tampa Bay's D-line has to overpower Kansas City's offensive line. And then they have to, Hill's going to do his thing. I think they're already kind of know that. They have to put a blanket over Travis Kelce. So if their D-line is going to get to Mahomes, where do you think he's going to go? He's going to go to that 9 yards. He knows Travis Kelce's standing right there, probably wide open. Tampa Bay cannot allow that to happen. They have to just drape that dude with everything they've got, because that's going to be what kills them. So you take away the deep shot. We've seen it a couple times this year already. People can take away that deep shot. That's fine. But you've got these guys underneath crossing. So, if their linebackers truly are as fast as people want to say they are, they're going to have to control that, getting 8 yards on first down and getting 12 yards on first down to win that game.
Which has proved almost impossible for anybody's team. Now, granted,
San Diego did it last year to us a couple times. They switched out linebackers for safeties, but
yeah. And then the point I was going to bring up earlier is, in a week, what week did they play the Bucs? Week whatever, doesn't matter. Regular season game against the Bucs. Andy Reid is going to have his team prepared to play the game, but they're not going to all out it like a Super Bowl. Andy Reid is going to have something for everything that the Bucs are going to throw at him defensively. And so that first play, they come out that first and 10 or second and 10 or whatever. If they see press coverage, he's going to have something for it. If they see a 10-yard, a corner playing 10 yards off a hill, he's going to have something for it. So, it's going to come down to coaching as well.
Yeah, coaching is going to play a huge factor in this game, I think, because, you got Andy Reid on one side. Everybody knows what he's about. Best coach in the game right now, definitely. And then you got Bruce Arians, who I think's quite a bit underrated, and he's finally starting to get that recognition that he deseres.
Yes, he is.
Underrated. I remember in 2007, he was the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he had been for a few years, and he brought this young Ben Roethlisberger along. The first year, 15-1. They didn't quite play their best in the playoffs. Everybody said Big Ben hit a rookie wall that year, but the next playoff run they had, that offense was through until the Super Bowl, the Seahawks game. That offense was on fire, and they were doing trick plays, unpredictable, kind of a lot what Andy Reid does. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that Super Bowl run. You saw some wide receiver passes, and I would be very surprised if you don't see the Bucs try something in this game gimmicky.
Oh yeah.
With the amount of talented receivers they have, they got Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, Mike Evans. They're going to do something at some point in this game. If they can keep it close enough, hang around, they're going to pull something out. But really, I think this game comes down to what I think the Buccaneers are going to do on defense. No team. Again, the Chiefs make it really simple on Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the game right now. You can't argue that. But they do make it very simple for him. Tyreek Hill is such a matchup nightmare that either you have to double team him or Mahomes is going to throw the ball as far as he can, and it's probably going to be a touchdown. Mm-hmm. So 99% of the time he's double teamed, and that leaves Travis Kelce in the middle of the field, who is the best possession receiver in football, not even tight end. The best possession receiver is Travis Kelce. And if 10 yards in the middle of the field, single coverage, every Chiefs game I watched this year, it's just wide open. Mahomes, all he has to do is throw the ball to him. So this game's going to come. I think the Buccaneers are forced to double team Tyreek Hill. I think they're forced to try to play Travis Kelce one-on-one in the middle and just try to get some pressure on the quarterback. They're going to depend on a splash play by Jason Pierre-Paul but don't sleep on Devin White. That's one of the best middle linebackers in the game. And if there's somebody that can slow Travis Kelce down one-on-one, maybe it's Devin White. But
and Tampa Bay has both their safeties healthy for the Super Bowl too.
But I'm looking forward to seeing something gimmicky out of the Buccaneers this year in the Super Bowl.
I think we're going to see a Philly special.
We're going to see something.
Who was it for them that threw the touchdown pass earlier in the year? Was it Godwin?
The Buccaneers. I think it was Chris Godwin, yeah.
He got an arm on him.
Did you guys see Scotty Miller go on, I think it was somebody's podcast, or I don't know, he was in an interview, and he said he was faster than Tyreek Hill.
So let's get it straight. Let's get it straight what he actually said, though. He didn't say he's faster than Tyreek Hill. He said, I have the confidence in myself to go up against anybody.
Yeah, you can't say that when you're talking about speed with Tyreek Hill.
No, he would not win that race, but the words were obviously taken a little bit out of context.
I'm just ready for Adam Schefter to race Tyreek Hill is all. I mean, I just want to see it.
So who's everybody taking?
Chiefs in a close one.
So I've got Chiefs covering. The spread right now is -3. I've got the Chiefs covering that. They'll win by 6 or 7. And I'm actually going to take the over as well. So like to Kyler's point, Tampa Bay is going to come out and try to score with them. That's really all anybody can do at this point. So Chiefs are going to get 30. Tampa Bay is going to try to get theirs. And so I see the over happening. Over right now is 56.5 on most sports books. So I can see the over happening. The over doesn't hit in the Super Bowl all that often, but Kansas City hasn't been in the Super Bowl all that often. So I can see it happening. I'm taking the over in Kansas City at -3.
What do you got, Kelsey?
I've got the Chiefs -3. I actually he just told me the over-under was 56. Is that what you said?
56.5.
56.5. And I initially thought over. I was like, definitely over. But I started thinking about it, and I think the score will be about 31-24 Kansas City, which would put it right under at 55. So, I think it's a pretty good over-under. I would probably take the under because I don't think Tampa Bay is going to score close to 30 against Kansas City. Honestly, I really don't. I think the Chiefs will be right around 30. So I would probably take the under and Chiefs -3.5.
So you don't think Brady has that gene in him, that Kobe gene that's going to make them score 30, huh?
Oh, I think Brady's 43 years old and Father Time's undefeated.
Kobe scored 60 in his last game, so.
I'm taking the Chiefs. I think this game's going to play out a lot like the Chiefs games have thus far. They're going to, they might drop down in the first quarter, but by the time halftime hits, they're going to grab the lead and they're just going to, they're going to play. They're going to win by 31-23. I'm taking the under, and it's going to feel like, to me, it's going to feel like the Chiefs all the way. Just like every other, even when they're down 9-0 against the Bills, you don't actually believe the Chiefs are going to lose that game.
It's a weird feeling as a Chiefs fan, feeling like
Very
doesn't
true.
matter what the score is, we're going to win this game. Because it used to be we were up 10 and we thought we were going to lose. Somehow, some way, Andrew Luck's going to recover his own fumble, or we're going to miss a field goal, or we're going to kick 6 field goals, or the Steelers are going to kick 6 field goals, and we're going to have 2 touchdowns and lose. Something crazy is going to happen.
Yes, Mariota's going to throw a touchdown to himself.
Yeah. Oh, man, don't even – that's a repressed memory right there.
We finally have a quarterback the people outside of the KC metro area know their name, so that helps a little bit too.
No disrespect to Alex Smith. GOAT.
True. But you're going to tell me Damon Heward and all them guys.
Brody Croyle.
I will say, though, Alex Smith last year in Kansas City, I'm still salty about Derek Johnson's roughing the passer on Marcus Mariota when all he did was take the ball out of his hands, and it was a fumble, the Chiefs going the other way, and the game was over. I still don't know how that was roughing the passer, but
I do. If we want to go down that path, we kind of went through it on our group chat this week. I think maybe not 2 in a row, but Patrick Mahomes, let's say he never existed, right? I think Alex Smith has what it would have taken to get Kansas City to at least one of these Super Bowls. Under Andy Reid with those weapons, he could have got us to one of these Super Bowls. It wouldn't have looked as easy over the year, but he could have done it.
If you're saying Spagnuolo's our defensive coordinator, I completely agree. With Bob Sutton, no. Patrick Mahomes isn't Bob Sutton either.
100%. The Chiefs' defense has performed these last 2 years 100 times better than they ever did with Alex Smith in the playoffs. 100%.
Yeah,
Alex Smith was a good enough quarterback.
Not saying that, and we went over this too, what I think of Alex Smith. I think he was so underappreciated as a Chief. He's not in the same ballpark as Mahomes. Mahomes makes it look too easy at times. He makes it look like anybody could go out there and be a quarterback. But Alex Smith proved this year in Washington how good he really is. He got 1.5 legs, and he's out there leading a team to a playoff berth in a pretty good game in the playoffs. So
yeah, everyone acts like they got that game against Tampa was actually a pretty tough game.
Yes, it was.
Honestly, and Tampa's in the Super Bowl now.
Do we want to move on from this and go on into
we got some exciting news in the NFL the other day. Matthew Stafford traded to the Rams.
Yeah, that was.
I think we all knew it was coming, but Kelsey, what's your take?
I never even saw the to the Rams coming. That
I really thought it was going to be Colts. I really thought it was going to be the Colts.
But I think the Dolphins are kind of all in. Go ahead, Kelsey.
We discussed this a lot in our group chat, obviously, and I think you guys got the idea that I was thinking the Lions made a good deal here. I actually have since turned my opinion, and here's why. Matt Stafford, he wanted to go to play with Sean McVay. I actually, if you guys saw right before we started this, Stafford's only request to the Lions was, I don't want to go to New England and play with Bill Belichick. Just saying. You guys should check that out. It came out right before this podcast started. But one time in Matt Stafford's career has he had a top 10 defense. He went 11-5 that year. In his 12 years as a quarterback, there's been 11 games in his career where he's had a 100-yard rusher on his team. The Rams had a 100-yard rusher 5 times last year. I've said this many times, and I actually said that the Lions won astray, but I completely changed my idea on this. Matt Stafford's one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks. Yes. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer, but he has been a very good quarterback for a very bad franchise for a lot of years. And I think in L.A. with McVay, that defense, I think the Rams can compete in that division. And honestly, I think they can compete, and I think they'll be playing for a Super Bowl next year. That should be their goal, is to win a Super Bowl one of these next 2 years, because they have a 2-year window to win a Super Bowl. And I think that's a realistic goal for them.
The Rams are all in for sure.
Yes.
And they have Aaron Donald, they got Jalen Ramsey. They had a good defense this year. They're going to have a good defense next year. And the difference between Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford is a pretty big difference.
Oh,
Matthew Stafford's going to be playing. He's never played this kind of football for a while. He's been playing in Detroit, where they lean on him for everything, and you just can't win like that in the NFL. But so Matthew Stafford, he's the real winner in this, and so are Rams fans. Because I'm on the Rams bandwagon. They're going to be playing deep into January next year.
So the Rams won't have made a first-round pick since Jared Goff in 2016.
Until 2024.
Until 2024.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, you have to figure that starts to hurt the defense because, you give up a couple for Stafford. You gave up, I think, one for Ramsey and some other things. And then you had dead money in getting rid of Goff, and you have dead money in Brandon Cooks last year. Like, your 2 year window makes sense because like they're going to be screwed. Yeah. They're going to be pretty dead. They're going to be a 4-12 team here in 5 years if they don't get something figured out. Like,
back to Stafford, you won't find many people outside of Detroit who appreciate Matt Stafford as much as I do. If I have to drag myself to watch an NFC game, it's always the Detroit Lions so I can watch Stafford play. Perfect example was earlier this year when he threw that no-look pass for the touchdown in the red zone. I don't remember who it was against, what week it was. Never saw it on SportsCenter the whole next day. Mahomes does that. It's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. They play it every 30 seconds on SportsCenter. And I just feel like Stafford's underappreciated. I feel like he is way better than most people give his record credit, but it's because he's in Detroit. And how many winning seasons have they had since he's been there? Because they just put trash teams around him. And I think I'm the same as everyone else in here. I can't say for certain because football is such a wild sport that the Rams will be playing for a Super Bowl, but that is definitely their goal, and that should be the expectation for them with somebody like Matt Stafford quarterbacking for them with the team they already have.
I'd be game for another one of those 50-50 shootouts with the Rams and the Kansas City.
As long as we come out on the right side of this one.
But no, so here's a side note to all that. How the hell do you think Calvin Johnson feels about all this? So he spent his entire career in Detroit on some pretty crappy teams as, not an argument, the best wide receiver in football at the time. Yep. Yes, the dynamic has shifted where players have a little more control, but he has to feel like he got shortchanged a little bit, knowing that you could have got out of there.
Are we going to see a Brady Gronk situation?
Calvin is he? I think he's still under contract in Detroit, actually, because he just signed a huge contract right before that. So actually, I saw some Lions fans saying that their new coach, who wants their team to bite everyone in the knees, that they were hoping they would go to Calvin Johnson and beg him to come back and play for him, because now they're really excited on that Jared Goff train. And I'm not trying to make fun of Detroit because we've been Kansas City fans and we've spent some tough years. But man, it'd be tough to be a Lions fan. They're getting excited about Jared Goff right now. That's tough to do.
I feel bad for Jared Goff in this situation. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if his career his career will be straight downhill from here. Playing for the Lions, and I don't think he's a top 15 quarterback.
He's a middle of the road quarterback. I'd put him somewhere, if you had to list them all out, probably a little below 15, but he's not a bad quarterback by any means, but I'm not
Think about this, though. He went from one of the best offensive minds in Sean McVay, one of the most creative run games, play action where he's throwing to open receivers. Did anybody watch? You said you watched Lions games. Did you see the receivers that Stafford had to hit? He wasn't hitting open receivers. He was threading the needle, and Jared Goff is going to struggle.
That goes back to my point.
Galladay is good, though. Is that his name up there?
Galladay.
When you don't run the ball, you don't have open.
Oh yeah, they need a run.
The receivers are less open, and that's going to be tough sledding for Jared Goff.
Name the Lions' leading rusher over the past 15 years.
Well, they've drafted 4 running backs in the first round 4 years in a row or something. So
yeah,
I don't know where they're going with that.
They got AP about 5 years too late. 6 years
About
too late.
12 years too late.
Well, they drafted that many running backs and then resorted to using a 30-plus-year-old Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. They'll
If
go
that
get
tells you
Frank Gore
anything.
this offseason.
Yeah.
Hey,
He's still got it in the tank.
Hey, I'll say one thing. I don't know if it's a guarantee that Jared Goff will play in Detroit this year. I could see them trying to trade him. We were talking about that after the trade. Like I was reading on Twitter, and people were talking about the Lions potentially trying to trade him for more draft picks. The Lions are just trying to get a whole bunch of draft picks.
Go all in on the
down
tank.
there. And I don't know who wants Jared Goff, because I think the reason why the Rams got rid of him, were able to get rid of him, was just because the Lions wanted draft picks. But I don't know who would want to take on that contract or who would want to take him on as a quarterback. But I wouldn't be surprised if he got moved again this offseason.
Tanking in the NFC North would be so hard because the Bears are going to try to lose to you. The Vikings are going to try to lose to you. Like you're going to win these games just because people.
And then Rodgers is going to get cocky again from beating up on him.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So with all that Stafford talk, what about Watson? So, there's been a lot of talk about him too. Obviously, requesting that trade down there in Houston, and Houston did put a price on him today. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 young defensive starters. So, you can own the Lambo, but you're not going to be able to afford the oil change after you get him. So, what are your all's thoughts on this whole Watson situation?
Yeah, that's a steep price. You've got to be Super Bowl ready when you get Watson. Like, if you're going to give up that, you have to be, like we just talked about the Rams are with Stafford. They're going all in for the Super Bowl. You have to be in that situation with pieces to spare on defense. If you're going to give up 2 young starters, you have to have guys that fill that role that make you a Super Bowl team still. And that's, I don't know how many teams can swing that.
Yeah, that's a steep price, and that price is going to have to come down before I feel like anybody will make that trade. The teams that I think should be calling the Texans right now, the Colts, with Rivers retiring, they have a good team around him. I think that Deshaun Watson could take them to the next level. I think the Bears and Dolphins should also be interested. And
the Bears?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
The Bears should be very interested, yeah.
I mean, Mitch Trubisky, he's all right, but Deshaun Watson would take that team.
The Bears are going to bear. They're just going to. It's
right,
not
but
2006 anymore.
They have a defense. They got Khalil Mack. They've got a decent running back. They've got a good receiver.
The Bears had Trubisky and were a game away from the playoffs, dude.
Yeah, but what were they going to do in those playoffs? Once again, look at the division they were playing in. Half the NFC should have been relegated to college football this last year. The NFC East and the NFC North.
They had Trubisky and almost made the playoffs, though. You have Deshaun Watson. It's a different story.
Yeah.
The guy you should have had the first time. Yeah.
Everybody or Mahomes, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody who isn't the Chiefs, I guess you can say the Chargers and the Bengals, the Bills, the Ravens. That's about it. Everybody else should at least call the Texans and see what they can do to get Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying everyone should give up 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 defensive players, but everyone else should be in contact with the Texans to see what they can do to get Deshaun Watson.
I don't know.
I agree with that.
I don't know what the Dolphins have on defense. I don't know enough about the Dolphins, but they're a team. They're a team that they're a Deshaun Watson away from being that good.
When you have a Kyler Murray already, Russell Wilson, I mean, there's 15 quarterbacks in the league that you don't give up, even if it is an upgrade, you don't give up that amount of draft capital and players already on your team for that slight of an upgrade. There's not that many teams should be calling them.
Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and obviously the Rams aren't going to call him since they just traded for Stafford. I don't think the list is 15 teams long, though. I mean, honestly, I think the Browns should at least call and see what they can do. I don't think they have to tell Baker Mayfield they called and see what they should do. But I mean, if the Browns can somehow figure out a way to get Deshaun Watson, yeah, I
Think
think
how
they
much
should
more dynamic
contact
he makes that offense. And no slight to Baker Mayfield, not a fan at all. He's a good quarterback, but they're already scary offense. You add Deshaun Watson to that, that's
Well, the Browns are kind of the teams, a similar team to what I was talking about. They're on the fringe of being a contender. Teams like that, with a middle of the road quarterback like Baker Mayfield, yeah, sure, they should probably call him. But there's only a handful of those teams out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
you can also you can ask a contender, or if you're a contender already with or maybe not a contender, you're a playoff team with a middle of the road quarterback, you can ask to lower you can just say, well, we're not going to pay that price. Well, we'll throw in another pick instead of the 2 defensive players and call it good. If not, we'll stick it with our quarterback that already got us to the playoffs this year.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying every team should give up 2 first, 2 seconds, and 2 defensive players. But the Broncos and Raiders should both call the Texans and see what they want. The Browns, the Steelers, they should both call the Texans and see what they want. The Colts, they should call the Texans and see what they want. The Jags, they should call the Texans and see what they want. All those
the
teams
Jags are about to draft Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and Trevor Lawrence hasn't played a game in the NFL. Deshaun Watson has proven to be. He's probably.
Don't give up the farm if you think you've got a good show pony coming.
Okay, well, hold up.
But
What would it take the Texans and Jaguars to trade for Deshaun Watson? What would it take the Jags to give up?
Trevor Lawrence for
the first
sure.
Pick. Yeah, the first overall pick. What else?
If they gave up
it would
first
take more than
pick,
that.
But I don't think it would take as much as you think, because Trevor Lawrence is supposedly supposed to be a godsend. So I think the Jags would be in the best position.
But you just said he's never played an NFL game.
I agree, but
so it's going to take more than just that.
I agree,
they're not
but
going
I'm
to trade.
saying it won't take 2 first, 2 seconds, and 2 defensive players for the Jags if you're getting Trevor Lawrence in return. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying teams should contact them, because the Texans might be like, oh, well, you can give us this, so this is a little bit better than this.
It's like
I'm not saying all those teams should trade for him, but they should contact them.
Any deal you make, selling a car or whatever it is, you always start high and then you work your way down. There's very few teams that are going to come to get on the phone and offer exactly what the Texans are asking for. And, the Jags might be able to swing that. And the Jags are by no means a contender, I don't think, even with Watson. I mean, not even playoffs probably. So they, in my opinion, will probably stick to rebuilding with Trevor Lawrence. But, it depends what the Texans think Trevor Lawrence is worth. Some people think he is the next coming of Tom Brady, and some people think he's going to be a good quarterback, going to be a great quarterback. It's just how much.
I think
the teams I've heard mentioned the most are, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Colts, and the Bears, right? The Texans have Watson under contract. Watson is once out. Cool. The Texans hold all the cards here. Yes, they have a player that doesn't want to play for him, but they could just make him sit. Like, they could. They're not going to trade him to the Colts inside the division. That's just not going to happen. But then, for Watson to verbally say he wants to go to the Jets, you want to go from one dumpster fire to an even bigger dumpster that happens to also be on fire. It just doesn't make sense. The Dolphins are, to me, if I had to put money on, if a sportsbook opened up, where's Watson going? To me, it's the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So that's open. You can go put money on that.
you can give him Tua, and you give him 2 firsts, and I think that settles it all. So yeah, Tua, he is what he is.
I don't care how old he is. I'm taking Fitzmagic over Tua. I say give me Fitzmagic.
If you're a team like the Jaguars, you can't give up a significant amount of draft capital.
You're too far behind already.
For Deshaun Watson.
I agree. I'm not saying they should.
I see your point too, Kels. Yeah, I do. Yeah. And Carl, I'm going to disagree with you on the in division thing. I understand that point completely, that you can't give a top 3 quarterback to an in division team, but if he's going to sit and not play for you, it doesn't make you any better than that team already. So are you going to let them whoop on you while you're playing with your second string quarterback, or do you give him over to them and then give yourself a fighting chance in a year or so?
If the Colts are willing to give up the most for him, then that puts the Texans in a better spot. So I could see that happening.
Division trades just don't happen. I agree with
No,
Carl.
they don't.
I mean, it could be an anomaly. It could happen, but I don't see the Texans sitting on him. And 5 years ago in the NFL, it's hard for players to get trades done. Now, I agree the organization has the power. The Texans can sit on him, but it's just a different league now. The players push to get their way, and it happens.
Yeah, you didn't see trades in the division until you had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell force their way out of Pittsburgh. Now players pretty much get traded whenever they want, wherever they want. So I don't think the division trades are off the table anymore. It's more about getting the most compensation for your players, no matter where they go.
To that point, how often have we seen it work out? So Bell and Brown did it. Melvin Gordon did it. They all got on different teams. Their production was nowhere near what it was every time they did that.
That doesn't mean they didn't fleece the teams, though, that they got
Oh,
traded
yeah.
to.
They got paid. They all got paid, which Brown
Antonio Brown did not get paid.
He would
did,
have got
but
paid.
then he threw it away.
And ironically, if Antonio Brown stays healthy and out of trouble next year, he might be the most productive of the bunch because he was productive as can be in Tampa Bay the second half of the season. Had 65 catches or something like that since he's been active.
Yeah, I was surprised at how many catches he actually had. But my money's on the Jets. He's going. I don't know why he wants to go to the Jets, but
not that Houston's small market by any means, because Houston's a pretty good sized market, but
fourth largest city in the United States.
Yeah, but it's still New York, LA, and not that he's going. I'm not saying an LA team, but players gravitate towards teams in those cities because they want the glamour. They want to play in New York or LA.
It will happen, but I think if San Francisco wants a fighting chance in their division, they should be calling about Deshaun Watson because I don't know what they're doing at quarterback, and they're going to have to face Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, and Matthew Stafford now 6 times a year. And those aren't not just the quarterbacks. The teams are good.
Yeah.
And the Niners have a good team. They don't have anything at quarterback right now. I'm not.
How do the Niners make that trade work, though, with the contract they have with Jimmy Garoppolo? How is that possible?
They trade Garoppolo to the
New
England Patriots.
Send him to New England.
Yep. I don't know why, but
somebody to bait on Jimmy G. That's gonna be a tough task, but that'd be the only way.
Well, folks, I think that about wraps this up for us today. Next time, stay tuned. We're going to be talking probably about some NBA stuff, some post Super Bowl, NFL off season. The world is our oyster here. So I just want to say thanks for those of you that stuck it out with us on this first podcast. As this thing grows and evolves, we hope you stick around. We'll be back with a brand new discussion. Until then, be sure to find us on social media and smash the like button. Be good out there, and thanks for listening to 4th and 30.
Thanks, everybody.